Alamein where men trained for war against Rommel. Yet the desert whispered of darker plans beneath. Under the brutal Egyptian sun, rifles gleamed, bayonets shone, discipline forged like steel in the sand. But as night fell, silence grew heavy, patrols vanished, leaving only shadows and unanswered names. Strange sinkholes appeared shallow at dawn, endless at heart, swallowing soldiers whole, unseen, unheard. Whispers spread of claws beneath dunes, vast and ancient, no machine, no beast of this earth. Maps and orders meant nothing. The true commander was the desert, ruthless, patient, alive. When the great bombardment came, the earth trembled, not from guns, but something awakening below. Sand erupted, black titans, rising armored scorpions taller than tanks, forged from nightmare and myth. In a heartbeat, armies broke, allied and Axis alike, fleeing side by side from the same unseen terror. Bullets rattled uselessly, ricocheting off black shells. Discipline drowned in screams and dust. The battlefield turned slaughterhouse war, dissolved into chaos. No strategy could tame this horror. Dawn revealed silence. Twisted tanks, shattered helmets, and sand hungry for more. Official reports spoke of victory, yet buried truth whispered of monsters beneath the dunes. Soldiers drilled by day, marched by habit, prayed by night, discipline the only armor against dread. Water rationed by ounces, hope by whispers, each swallow, each breath a bargain with the sun. Beneath stars, engineers laid mines, but the earth shifted, erasing their work before dawn. In both camps, fear grew unspoken, contagious as shadow moving faster than command's denial. Reeves filed reports, vibrations, sinkholes, screams. Answers came sealed, stamped unverified. Callahan wrote trembling words. The ground is breathing. Sanity faltered beneath shifting sands. Night patrols tied ropes, prayed in silence, each knot a plea against the unseen below. In darkness, the desert murmured. Boots halted, eyes widened, then silence eternal and deep. German and British alike saw dunes ripple like waves, yet command called it mirage, fatigue, madness. When guns thundered, claws answered, feeding on noise drawn by war's roar, birthed from chaos. Scorpions rose, massive unholy claws, shattering steel tails, lashing with unstoppable force. Men fled not from bullets, but from the truth. The desert was alive, and it was hungry. The minefields collapsed overnight. No explosion, no enemy, just the earth reclaiming its secrets. Reeves watched the sand bulge and breathe an ancient pulse beneath a modern war. Command called it illusion, but fear carved truth into the eyes of every man who saw. Across the wire, Germans prayed under cold moons, rosaries trembling with unspoken dread. In silence, even enemies shared one terror, an invisible predator beneath their boots. Reports vanished, sealed away truth, buried deeper than the soldiers it devoured. Some men awoke to empty trenches, no struggle, no blood, just helmets left behind. They move faster when the guns fire. Callahan scrawled mad words, a revelation. Entire batteries refused to shoot again, afraid their thunder summoned something hungry. In the stillness before dawn, whispers drifted like ghosts, names of the vanished unanswered. The desert shifted in rhythm, a heartbeat of sand, patient, relentless, alive. Each night claimed more souls, no bullet wounds, no bodies, only silence where men once stood. Fear dissolved ranks. Veterans trembled like children, discipline cracking beneath unseen claws. Reeves pressed command for truth met with silence colder than the desert night itself. Orders demanded courage, the earth demanded tribute, men vanished to feed its hunger. Under a blood-red sky, the bombardment began, 800 guns shaking heaven and earth. Beneath the thunder of steel, another rumble grew low, deep, ancient as time itself. The sand quaked, splitting open black armor, rising claws gleaming in firelight. The first scorpion towered above tanks, its carapace glinting, its roar shaking men to their knees. Bullets sparked uselessly. Shells shattered against unholy skin forged by myth, not metal. A panzer lifted like a toy, smashed into dust beneath claws that knew no mercy. Screams tore through smoke rifles, fell silent. Courage drowned in terror, older than war. Allied and Axis soldiers fled together, no enemies, now only prey beneath the desert's gaze. Reeves shouted orders, swallowed by chaos, discipline broken, humanity stripped bare. The dunes burned, but the shadows moved through flame, untouched predators of sand and silence. Callahan screamed into the storm, his voice lost beneath the hiss of shifting, hungry dunes. Reeves dragged him through the sand, shouting, "Don't look away, watch the ground breathe." All around, shadows erupted, monstrous claws, dragging squads beneath the living desert. Artillery crews abandoned their guns, fleeing the inferno they themselves had summoned. The sky glowed red. The earth blackened, war's fire paling before nature's vengeance. In the chaos, faith cracked. Men prayed, cursed, and wept as the desert devoured them whole. Machine guns rattled like nervous hearts, each bullet a prayer, each silence a death. The beasts showed no pain, no hesitation, only purpose, a hunger written in ancient instinct. Reeves locked eyes with a German officer. Two soldiers, one truth, they will pray together. Tanks churned helplessly, treads swallowed by dunes that shifted like breathing flesh. Flames roared across the horizon, yet through the blaze, the scorpions marched unburned. Night split open, screamed steel and fire, melding into one unholy symphony of terror. Callahan's notebook shook in his trembling hands, ink bleeding sanity, unraveling line by line. They rise when the guns roar, he wrote prophecy scrawled in fear, destined to be erased. Nakamura watched in silence his cold recording death with a scholar's detached precision. Discipline collapsed orders meaningless against claws that tore through both faith and flesh. Some fired until barrels melted. Others knelt surrendering to a godless sandstorm of death. Silence fell, unnatural immense, broken only by the rasp of claws beneath the smoldering ground. Dawn crawled over a graveyard of steel, the desert whispering secrets no man dared repeat. The battlefield lay still, littered with shattered rifles and twisted ghosts of once proud machines. Survivors staggered through smoke, their faces pale masks carved by terror too vast to name. No victory songs, no cheers, only hollow eyes staring at dunes that might rise again. Officers barked orders, none obeyed. Fear had replaced rank, horror had silenced command. Reports spoke of enemy counterattack, a lie inked in trembling hands, truth burned in ash. Reeves buried comrades beneath shifting sands, offering no prayer, only a clenched jaw and rage. Callahan's whisper trembled. "They'll come back, won't they?" A plea swallowed by the empty wind. Reeves stared at the endless dunes. No answer, only silence heavy as guilt and unspoken dread. Survivors sat in the ruins, hollow-eyed, clutching rifles like relics of a faith that had failed. Some wept openly. Others laughed madly, their minds cracked by horrors no words could contain. The desert wind swept away footprints, erasing proof, sealing the truth beneath endless shifting sand. Commanders ordered reports, cleaned enemy assault. They wrote burying terror under tidy lies. Callahan's frantic notebook burned in a metal drum, his truth turned to smoke, rising like ghosts. German survivors whispered, "Die Skorpione des Sang," their words struck from official memory. Reeves sent his final report stamped, classified, sealed in silence, buried like the men it named. In the camps, fear lingered like a scent, every grain of sand, a reminder of what still moved below. At night, men jolted awake, swearing they heard scraping claws beneath their bunks, faint but real. Veterans flinched at desert winds, the hiss in their ears echoing the whispers of buried predators. Some carried holy charms. Others carved crosses into rifles, faith reshaped by primal terror. Reeves no longer prayed. He simply watched the horizon, waiting for the dunes to stir again. Command pressed forward, new offensives, new orders, but the soldiers marched without conviction. Each step felt like trespass. Each breath a wager against an unseen, ancient hunger beneath. The official history spoke of triumph of tanks, bravery, victory, but omitted the true cost. The missing became numbers, casualties on paper, their real fates sealed in classified silence. Reports that whispered truth were burned, their authors warned into quiet obedience or ruin. Reeves drank in silence, haunted by memories of claws rising where maps once promised safety. Callahan, pale and trembling, stared into empty nights, whispering, "The ground remembers us." German veterans spoke in hushed tones, recalling tremors beneath trenches and vanishing comrades. Across armies, the silence matched a pact forged not in alliance, but in shared unspoken horror. The desert, indifferent, reclaimed its dead swallowing weapon secrets in the screams of men. And when peace came, it was hollow victory without triumph, silence, where songs should have risen. Dawn's light revealed no victors, only survivors, haunted men clutching rifles, like fading talismans of faith. The battlefield lay still, a graveyard of steel and silence, where even the wind dared not speak its truth. Orders came swiftly: advance at dawn, erase the night, and bury the terror beneath clean reports. Officers drafted lies with trembling hands, rewriting horror into enemy resistance under heavy fire. Reeves stared at his sealed orders, the weight of obedience heavier than the sand burying his dead. Callahan's hands shook as he wrote, only to watch each word burn his memories, denied yet unforgotten. The men obeyed, but their eyes betrayed them. Haunted mirrors reflecting something primal, unspeakable. No songs rose from the ranks, no pride in their step, only quiet dread in the shadow of unseen claws. Official communiques, celebrated victory maps, redrawn objectives met, while the true story smoldered in ash. Those who questioned the silence were dismissed, their warnings labeled fatigue, mirage, or madness. Reeves submitted one final note. The desert is alive. It was sealed away, unsigned, and never answered. Callahan was sent home, eyes hollow, his nightmares stitched deeper than any wound the war could give. German survivors, too, were silenced, files, redacted testimony, erased beneath black bars of secrecy. Yet whispers spread in barracks, and bars of tremors underfoot, of screams cut short by sand's hunger. The legend grew traded like contraband among soldiers who'd stared too long at restless dunes. Some laughed it off, nervous and hollow. Others crossed themselves, muttering prayers and shaking breaths. Reeves stopped laughing altogether, his gaze fixed always on the horizon, waiting for movement. Even in Cairo's crowded streets, he felt the pull of the desert, a quiet voice promising unfinished business. Veterans flinched at the hiss of poured sand, that sound of memory clawing its way back to the surface. They dreamed of dunes splitting open, of armored giants, rising, of being hunted once more beneath the moon. No metal could mend what was broken. No victory could cleanse the taste of ancient, nameless terror. The war ended, but the silence endured an unmarked grave. In history's book, its truth struck through in ink. Reeves drank in solitude, every glass a fragile shield against the echo of claws in the shifting dark. Callahan's voice faltered in every telling. Each retelling made him smaller until he stopped speaking at all. And so the truth slept buried not in sand, but in silence, waiting for those brave or cursed enough to remember. Years passed, yet Reeves still woke, gasping, tasting sand, hearing claws raking beneath his fragile dreams. The war had ended on paper, but in his soul the desert still whispered with ancient, restless hunger. Callahan wandered between hospitals, his eyes glazed with terror. Only he could see, only he remembered. Doctors spoke of trauma, of shell shock, but no medicine could quiet the breathing earth beneath his mind. Reeves tried confession once. The priest listened, then crossed himself twice, murmuring prayers for the buried. Reports of missing men were archived, sealed, their names carved into stone without truth or explanation. The official story hardened victory strategy heroism, while the real enemy slept beneath unmarked dunes. In pubs and reunions, whispers surfaced like ghosts' tales of armored titans that no one dared confirm. Some laughed nervously, clutching pints too tight. Others left in silence, their hands trembling on the door. Reeves stopped attending altogether. He'd seen what waited under the sand, and it had seen him too. His journals grew thin entries, fading to single words, breathing movement, waiting, then nothing at all. Callahan drank himself into oblivion, haunted by dreams, where sand flowed like blood and claws reached out. In Cairo's archives, a single memo remained. The desert is alive. Do not disturb it. Anonymous, unsigned. Historians dismissed the rumors. Superstition, fatigue, delusion, comforting lies for uncomfortable truths. Yet radar logs told of tremors with no source vibrations echoing through dunes long after the battle ended. Nomads spoke of nights when the ground sighed and stars blinked out above restless shifting horizons. Soldiers stationed nearby refused night patrols, muttering of whispers under the sand, unseen watchers below. Command ignored the fear, redacting anomalies into silence, rewriting horror into neat military language. The missing were labeled, presumed dead, their fate a secret buried deeper than any grave could hold. Reeves carried that silence like a wound bleeding in ways no surgeon, no prayer could ever close. He returned home, yet the desert followed its breath in the wind, its weight in every creak of floorboards. Sometimes in quiet rooms, he swore he felt the ground shift just enough to remind him he was still awake. Callahan's final words scrawled across a whiskey-stained page. It waits. It remembers. Nothing more. And somewhere in the archives, a lone folder survived. Each purge stamped, classified, untouched by time.
We're out of
Inside,
options.
one chilling
It's
note
over.
remained: no signature, no date, just 6 words carved in black. The desert still hungers tonight. Decades slipped by, yet it whispers lingered rumors of a battlefield that still shifted long after men were gone. In taverns from London to Berlin, veterans spoke low, eyes hollow, recalling nights when the ground breathed. Their words drew laughter from the young, but behind each smile flickered unease, an instinct older than reason. Maps of Alamein, redrawn for tourists, yet no guide walked the dunes after sunset that anymore. The desert seemed unchanged, but locals swore it hummed at night, a low pulse deep beneath the sand. Shepherds vanished without trace, their flocks found untouched. Circling depressions shaped like open jaws. Nomads told of stars dimming above restless dunes of whispers carried on winds older than history. Scholars called it folklore, echoes of war trauma. But none dared camp where the earth once split open. In dusty archives, forgotten reports resurfaced, ink-faded, stamped, redacted corners burned with haste. Among them, a single margin note trembling in pencil. It moved again last night. No signature, no date. Reeves lived out his days by the sea. Yet every tide reminded him of waves of sand swallowing men whole. He kept no medals, no photographs, only silence and eyes that never trusted, still ground beneath his feet. Visitors said his house trembled during storms, as if something below stirred, answering an ancient call. Callahan died alone, clutching a rusted canteen filled with sand, his final relic of a battlefield best forgotten. His grave bore no epitaph, just a mound of earth, too soft, too restless, as though the desert had followed. In secret military circles, whispers spoke of anomalies, sinkholes forming in perfect circles, then vanishing overnight. Satellites captured shifting shadows across dunes, where no clouds passed, no winds stirred, only silence. Classified memos labeled the region geologically unstable, yet no seismic instruments ever recorded a tremor. Expedition teams vanished without contact. Their equipment later found arranged neatly in the sand untouched. Each disappearance was explained away. Yet patterns remained: movements, timings, echoes of a buried rhythm. Historians dismissed survivor accounts as myths. Yet their eyes faltered when confronted with twisted steel relics. Those relics bore gouges too deep, too curved, as if carved by something far stronger than machine or man. Museums quietly declined donations from the site, claiming lack of provenance, though fear shadowed their refusal. Still, the legend endured, whispered by soldiers' sons. The desert took them. It will take again. And beneath the eternal sun, the dunes waited, silent, ancient, patient guardians of a truth the world refused to see. Decades later, the desert lay quiet, too quiet, as if holding its breath beneath a veil of timeless stillness. Satellite imagery revealed shifting ridges, forming perfect rings patterns no wind could carve, no storm explain. Analysts logged them as errors, pixels, and shadows. Yet the shapes returned always in the same haunted sector. Geologists sent probes, but instruments failed. Signals cut, data corrupted, as though the Earth refused to speak. A drone vanished mid-flight, its feed replaced by static, then a single frame of swirling sand shaped like claws. Officials blamed sandstorms, though the skies that day were calm, eerily calm, under a sun that felt too still. Reports leaked of construction crews swallowed overnight equipment, sunk into pits that sealed by morning. Survivors spoke of rumbling below, a slow, hungry tremor that devoured trucks whole before anyone could run. Their words were met with silence. Contracts terminated, records erased, coordinates blacked out in archives. In government files, El Alamein was marked restricted, labeled with phrases like unstable substrate and classified. But whispers persisted of tremors that felt alive, of a pulse that matched no seismic chart known to man. Travelers at dusk described faint vibrations through their boots, a rhythm like breathing slow and vast. Bedouins warned outsiders not to camp near the old battlefield, muttering prayers to nameless gods of sand. Legends called them guardians of the deep reachers. Older than Egypt itself, keepers of forbidden hunger. Archaeologists dismissed the tales until their tents vanished overnight, leaving only spirals etched in dust. Footage recovered from a buried camera showed a final moment, a ripple in the ground, then blinding darkness. Scientists argued over the cause sinkhole's subsidence, but none could explain the claw-shaped impressions. Officials sealed the zone, declaring it off-limits under the guise of environmental restoration. A quiet lie. Yet from orbit, satellites continued to capture moving shadows vast and deliberate beneath the moonlit dunes. In secret forums, leaked files surfaced blurred photos, scrambled logs, coordinates struck through in red ink. Each document bore the same final note: reactivation suspected, containment impossible. The old veterans, now few, recognized the signs. Their hands shook as memories clawed up from buried years. Reeves's surviving letters, long hidden, spoke of a promise broken. We were told it ended. It never did. And across the desert, a low rumble returned a sound, older than war. A hunger unfulfilled stirring once again. Under a cold, indifferent moon, the dunes shifted, as if something beneath them was waking patient and alive. Night fell over El Alamein once more. Stars drowned in dust as the earth whispered beneath the quiet dunes. A caravan halted, their camels trembling. The sand quivered faintly, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Seismographs in Cairo spiked suddenly. No quake registered, only a slow oscillation from deep within the crust. The readings formed a pattern, 3 long waves, one short, an impossible signal, almost deliberate. Engineers dismissed it as noise, yet satellites recorded faint heat blooms rising from beneath the old trenches. From orbit, they resembled scars glowing through skin marks of something alive stirring far below. Journalists chasing ghost stories stumbled upon sealed bunkers, doors welded warnings etched in 7 languages. Do not dig. One plate read beneath layer 7. Its edges were rusted, yet the words burned with urgency. The team ignored the warnings, driving drills into ancient strata. The desert answered with a hollow, booming sigh. Sensors died instantly. Cameras went black. Only audio survived a deep rumble, then screams swallowed by silence. The site was buried by morning dunes, reshaped overnight, as if the earth had erased the trespass with intent. Leaked footage surfaced online, frames of shifting sand, a brief flash of glistening black armor, then static. Authorities scrubbed the net, citing hoaxes, but those who watched spoke of eyes glinting like obsidian moons. Old veterans recognized the reflection. They had seen it before in the fire-lit chaos of that cursed night. Reeves's final log resurfaced. The desert breathes. It remembers. It waits. And when it wakes, we fall. The note spread quietly across forums, across whispers in academic halls, igniting fear wrapped in fascination. Expeditions formed in secret, scientists, soldiers, seekers, all drawn by the forbidden promise buried in sand. GPS failed as they approached the old battlefield. Compasses spun wild, drones dropped from calm skies. In the stillness, the dunes trembled, a pulse rising steady. Vast and ancient hunger flexing beneath the crust. A fissure split open, glowing faintly, red air thick with dust and the stench of something long entombed. From the chasm rose a shape armored colossal, its surface gleaming with centuries of buried rage. Cameras captured the first claw breaching
Callahan
daylight,
writes,
black serrated, dripping
"We
with
fought
sand
the desert
like blood
itself."
from old wounds. Across the world, signals flickered, broadcasts cut to static. Satellites went blind over northern Africa. The desert roared a sound beyond thunder, beyond war, a voice of something ancient reclaiming its dominion. And in that moment, humanity understood El Alamein had never been conquered, only waiting to rise again.